More honestly provocative talk right now on The Lars Larson Show.
Welcome back to The Lars Larson Show. Glad to be with you. Just a real pleasure, but I've got to get back to your calls in a while. Tom Kulik joins me now, who's a cyber expert and attorney. You know, Mr. Kulik, it's a pleasure to have you on the program because we talk about these kinds of concerns all the time. On this program, we've talked about EMP, naturally caused EMP caused by little crazy people like the leader of North Korea or others. Well, he is crazy. And although Dennis Rodman may get him hooked on pot, so if that secret mission works, that's my theory is that Donald Trump is just for conspiracy theories later on, because I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories, but Donald Trump has sent Dennis Rodman to secretly get the head of North Korea hooked on marijuana. And once he becomes a major league stoner, he will become far less belligerent than he is right now. But that's one for another day. You are an expert. You're an attorney. I want to take this seriously. I just say that because I am concerned that, that some of the clear and present dangers to this country may not come in the form of, Chinese missiles or Russian aircraft carriers that don't even have catapults on them. But it might actually come from a piece of software. And you've told me that they have a cyber weapon that has already taken down one major power grid and could be used against us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is correct, Lars. I'll put it to you this way, and so your readers can understand. What you're referring to is actually two different cyber attacks that happened, one first in 2015 and the other in 2016, which we believe really originated from Russia. But what they did is they had actually taken down a large portion of the electrical grid north of Kiev, the capital of the Ukraine. And as you can recall, there had been those tensions and that conflict that was happening in Ukraine with Russia. And we believe it stemmed from that. And the malicious software that was used to do that, we refer to as in-destroyer or crash override. That's what some of the experts are calling it. But it's a piece of software that is something that is not your average everyday piece of malware, like the ransomware attacks and other things, DDoS or distributed denial of service attacks that affect websites. This is a piece of software that is scaring a lot of industry experts. And the reason is it appears to have been purpose-built for that specific function. The only other piece of malware like this that I am aware of is the Stuxnet virus. And you might be familiar with it for your listeners.
That's the one that was used against the Iranians in their development of centrifuged uranium. And probably because of leaks that probably shouldn't have happened, but we like knowing information, but probably a joint venture of the United States and Mossad.
Yes, absolutely correct. And that's what is reported, and that's what we believe is, in fact, the case. The fingerprints were on that. And what that did is it actually caused those Iranian centrifuges to overspin and destroy themselves. This malicious code has the capability to actually do physical harm by overloading transformers or hurting diesel backup generators or preventing other backup systems from coming online. And what was concerning about the 2016 attack in Kiev is that it was automatic. This is a scalable piece of software purpose-built to attack the grid. And given the existing tensions that are happening between the United States and Russia, and as you can see where I'm going with this, if Russia, in fact, was the one behind this, this is something of concern. There have been discussions for many years now about the vulnerability of the United States electrical grid, and progress has definitely been made. But for this type of bug to be out there, scalable, automatic, it's actually something that can operate as, in a way, a Trojan horse that can actually trigger at a preset time and actually take out a system. This is something that is definitely being looked at and is a definite concern.
Well, because if you can tell this thing to sit dormant in computers and then to activate literally down to the 10th of a second and have it all go into effect at one time, you could pick your moment of greatest vulnerability where turning out the lights has its greatest effect.
Correct. It operates as a true logic bomb in that sense, in every sense of the word. And what we worry about with this is because it's such an automated piece of software, it could target multiple systems at the same time. And like you said, imagine this happening to 100 different substations in the Northeast. There was a study done by Cambridge and Lloyd's of London within the last year or so that said, if we had a protracted outage in just the Northeast, in that corridor, you're looking at over 93 million people being affected, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of economic damage, not to mention the geopolitical risk because of all that being down, including Washington, D.C.
Well,
so,
let me...
this is...
Oh, so sorry, Mr. Kulik. Go ahead.
That's okay. But you could see why this is such a concern, and it's something that needs to be addressed. This is definitely different than your normal malicious code or other viruses that we've seen out there. This is something that's a very, very targeted piece of code.
I mean, so if a player like Russia, a state actor like Russia, is doing something and the United States objects to it, and we begin to take actions against it, and then all of a sudden all the lights go out in Los Angeles or San Francisco, and another group that doesn't claim any connection to Putin or anyone else says, hey, stop doing that or we won't turn the lights back on. And as you said, there will be not only economic damage, but there could be human damage as well. Turn the lights out long enough, the sewage starts backing up, the fresh water doesn't flow, and food goes bad and everything else. You could have tremendous adverse effects. And instead of having a piece of software that says send $300 in Bitcoin to such and such an address, it says U.S. out of name the country, or we don't turn the lights back on for San Francisco. And Putin could sit back and say it's not me, and the Chinese could say it's not me, and the little crazy man could say it's not me. It's some other actor that may have the same interests as we do. And how would we go about proving that there was a connection?
That's an excellent point. As you know from recent WikiLeaks revelations themselves, it was shown that our own covert services had the ability to mask origins of specific attacks. And that goes to internet protocol addressing and being able to trace how some of these things occur. Who's to say that Russia can't do that as well? And my feeling is absolutely it can. So it can absolutely mask an attack like that. And worse off, you make a great analogy there. We're not talking about, give me 300 or 3,000 Bitcoin here. When this virus is triggered and it works, it's taking out systems. There are physical systems that are going down, relays that are going down. It takes time to get that back. So the best way I can look at this is think of a Hurricane Katrina hitting the coast. That is the type of effect that this can have as a cascade failure across large sections of the electrical grid. The good news is I know that there are a lot of steps that have been taken over the last 10 years, one of them being the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center, or NCCIC. That's part of the Department of Homeland Security. That has emerged as a hub for cyber information that the government collects and analyzes. And they have a real-time data center that's staffed and the electrical industry is involved with a representative there that can quickly address an attack when it happens. Hopefully there are utilities and developed code that they have in place that they can immediately roll out to address this. They even have what they call flyaway teams that can go to address specific sites. There's a lot of steps that at least have been disclosed that we're aware of that have been taken by the industry that look very, very promising, and it makes me feel better. The problem is this is not the only one, Lars. This is the first step in many others. Warfare, as we have known it, is no longer the way it's played. Cyber warfare is at the front lines. Mr.
Kulik, it is a pleasure to have you on. We'll be glad to have you back. And I'll feel comfortable when they've air-gapped all those utility computers. Air-gap them, and I don't care if you have to have a guy who sits there and takes instructions over the phone, but get some gap between them and the Internet. Mr. Kulik, thank you so much. I appreciate your time tonight.
Lars, it's a pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you on the program.